So I am getting ready to go band the tail on my 4-day-old lamb. Why do you band their tails? We do not band them for cosmetic reasons or because we think it looks cuter if they have the little tail nub instead of a long tail. We actually do it for their health and safety. If you take a look at the back of any type of wool sheep's butt, unless they are a show sheep, you're going to find a bunch of poop. And that is because all of that thick, fuzzy, fluffy, beautiful wool that keeps them warm out here in this 9-degree weather also collects all that fecal matter. If we left their tails long, like the tails they have when they're born, you would have this big fuzzy tail right up against this big fuzzy butt with all this fecal matter right in between, which is a recipe for a disaster because fly strike is real and it is really bad. Fly strike would be where the flies go up and they lay their eggs in the poop and then the maggots come out. Not only do they creep their way through the poop, but they also start burrowing into the flesh and eating it, and you wind up with the most horrendous sores. If you have hair sheep, chances are that you leave their tails long because hair sheep and wool sheep are two totally different types of clothing on your sheep. Hair on a hair sheep doesn't clump up near like wool on a wool sheep does. So it's just not as big a problem, although it can exist still. Putting a little band on a lamb's tail when they're less than a week old is such a minor thing to go through compared to this lifelong battle with fighting all of the things that having that tail can cause. You want to try to put the band on the tails within the first 7 days of life. Some people do it as soon as they're born. I like to be sure that they get on their feet first. It's not that big of a deal, but I don't want to do anything that's going to keep that little one from sucking, getting the colostrum, and getting a good start, a good jump on life before I do something that's going to make them just a little bit uncomfortable. Now, it typically only makes them uncomfortable for about 30 minutes. If they're on the more dramatic side, maybe 2 hours, but after that, they're good to go. This is what the bands look like. They're thick and tiny, and they're stretchy, but not something that you can stretch with your fingers. So we use this. This is a bander. You can get it at a feed store, Southern States, Rural King, Tractor Supply, usually around $9 to $10. And you just put your little castrating band over top of it. It has little notches that it'll kind of hook around. And when you go to put this over the tail of the sheep, you just open it up and you thread your tail right through there and then you let it go. After that, you can just roll the band off of it and pull the bander off. After that, the tail is going to go numb. And during that process of going numb, the 30 minutes or so, your lamb is going to probably lay down, roll around, maybe stretch its neck out funny because it is uncomfortable. You also are probably going to notice it nursing a lot more because that's what they do for comfort, just like human babies. After that, they're going to get up, they're going to play, and they're going to go the next 2 to 3 weeks acting like this band is not even on their tail. And then after that 2 to 3 weeks, that little tail is just going to fall off. No blood, no mess, and most of all, no pain. So come on out here and I'll show you how I put the band on a lamb. So this is our little 4-day-old girl. And as you can see, she's got that long tail. Now hers is a little thicker than most 4-day-olds, but that's okay. What we're going to try to do is if you raise the tail up and you've got this skin that comes up to a V right here, we're going to try to put the band just right where that skin comes to a V. Now, if you have show sheep, show lambs, a lot of them do a really high dock. One of the problems that we've come across with some of our sheep who have that show sheep docking done is it can affect the nerves up here. Not always, but it can, so that later on, if you do breed that sheep, it can cause them to prolapse more easily. We don't mind going a little lower with our docks. What I'll typically do is I'll just put the lamb right here between my legs because you don't want them to run away and get the band on too low. I'm gonna go ahead and spread it apart like that. We're just gonna thread that sweet little tail through. We're gonna look for that V. I'm gonna come right to the top of it. And then you're just going to use your fingers and roll it off. And this is what it looks like. Look underneath, right at the top of the V. Now, right now, It's not even bothering her one bit. With some lambs, you're not going to see them affected any. Some, just like people, are a little more dramatic than others, but typically they will go and start nursing because that is how they comfort themselves, just like human babies. This is one of our lambs who lost his tail about 1 week ago. You can see it just falls off in such a nice, non-bloody, very clean, very hygienic way. Not painful at all. The rest of our lambs over here that were just born last month, we're still waiting on theirs to come off. The longer that band is on the tail that's there before, it starts to shrink up a little as the tail above starts to grow. Holly has had the band on her tail for about 3 weeks, and you can see that tail has shrunk up so much underneath. It is getting so close to falling off. McFlurry's has been on for about 2 weeks. It's also shrinking up, but not quite as much as Holly's. Clark's has also been on for 2 weeks, and it just starts getting smaller, and that top part is still growing. They are completely unaffected by and able to live and play right up until it falls off, and they never even know it happened.